So today we're continuing on, and all of you know the verse that we've been looking at now. How many of you have memorized it? Anyone? Bhakta Bhakti Krishna Prem Tatvira Nidhar Vaishnavere Kritya Ara Vaishnava Achar Krishna Bhakti Krishna Prem Seva Pravartan Lupta Tirtha Udhara Ar Vairāgya Shikshan. So today's the sixth and final session. It's been very nice to be with all of you and discuss. And today is everyone's favorite Vairāgya, renunciation, detachment, leaving it all behind, letting go, the easiest of everything. And the Goswamis, they were such emblems of renunciation. It's interesting that Mahaprabhu specifically wanted them to show this example to the world of the importance of renunciation. Of course, Rupa Goswami says that Vairāgya is not a prerequisite for Bhakti, because actually Vairāgya actually comes from Bhakti. This morning I was talking about Viraha. Do you remember? Viraha means what? Separation. But what is the double meaning of Viraha? A special type of meeting. Vishesha Rahasya Unmilam. And Vairāgya means detachment, but it also has another double meaning, Vishesha Raga, which means a special type of attachment. In other words, when you have a special type of attachment for Krishna, when you have a special type of love for Krishna, then the distaste, the detachment, the disillusionment with the material things automatically arises. However, we also do have to consciously let go of things, and therefore Krishna and all of our acharyas teach us to let go. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you look very closely, they actually mirror each other in their narrative. Because what is the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita entitled? Setting the scene, observing the armies. So the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is just setting the scene for the whole book. And what's the first canto of the Bhagavatam all about? It's basically setting the scene. How did Parikshit was born, how he grew up, how he eventually got cursed, and how he then went to the bank of the Ganges to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the first canto ends. So, can you see the parallel? Just like the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita sets the scene, the first canto of the Bhagavatam sets the scene. Then if you look in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what's that entitled? Contents of the Gita summarized. Krishna basically gives all the main philosophical points. And if you look at the second canto of the Bhagavatam, especially the first 3 chapters, then you'll see that basically Sukadev Goswami gives all the main points of philosophy. Parikshit asks him the question, what is the duty of one who's about to die, and what is the duty of all people in all situations? And Sukadev Goswami just basically nails it immediately. Parikshit says, no, hang on, I got more questions. And similarly, Arjun says, I have more questions. Although you've said everything in the second chapter, the Gita goes on for another 16 chapters. So can you see? The second immediate installment summarizes everything. Where is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita found? At the end, and also chapter 9, because it's called Raja Vidya Yoga, or the most confidential knowledge. And where is the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam found? Ninth canto? Well, 10th canto, isn't it? Because the 10th canto is all the pastimes of Krishna, the smiling face of Krishna. But if you actually look at the sequence of verses and the number of verses, then the 10th canto is actually right in the middle of the Bhagavatam. But you may say it's 12 cantos, 10 cantos. But if you look at the verse numbers, because the 10th canto is so huge, if you calculate it, the 10th canto was probably being spoken about 3.5 days into the 7 days. So it's right in the middle. Can you see the parallel? The essence of the Gita is in the middle, the essence of the Bhagavatam is in the middle. What are the final 6 chapters of the Gita all about? Jnana Yoga. And Jnana Yoga means essentially the yoga of how to renounce or let go or become detached, because that's what Jnana helps you to do. And what are the final 2 cantos of the Bhagavatam all about? The majority of it is basically Krishna instructing Uddhava about renunciation, and Krishna teaching us about Kali Yuga and how basically we want to be getting out of this world as soon as possible. So if you look at the final 2 cantos of the Bhagavatam, what are they all about? Letting go, leaving the world, detachment. So it's very interesting that the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita both end with renunciation. Because you can have all the knowledge, you can have all the insight, you can have all the vision of where you want to go, but if you're not able to let go, isn't it? There was one, I think it was Astavakra Muni, he was on the Vyasasana and someone asked him a question, what is the nature of illusion? And he ran out into the courtyard, he caught hold of a tree and he started shouting, let me go, let me go, let me go, which is basically illusion. We're saying, Krishna, I want to get out of here. Krishna, I really want to see you. Krishna, I want to come to the spiritual world. And then simultaneously we hold on to so many things. So unless you're willing to let go, you cannot grasp what is really available. And therefore the Goswamis came to teach us this very beautiful. It sounds very painful, it sounds very difficult, it sounds very like, I don't know if I can do this. Because when the Goswamis renounced, they renounced in a very clinical way. Rupa Goswami just divided up all his wealth and he just left. Sanatan Goswami, when he wanted to renounce, he got imprisoned. He escaped from jail and he just ran away. Raghunath Das Goswami was a young boy, practically the son of a billionaire. But when he heard about Mahaprabhu, he decided in his heart, I have to join Mahaprabhu. And every day he was running away. And his mother said to his father, why don't you tie him down with chains? He's running. And what did his father say? The wealth of Indra and the beauty of the most beautiful damsels cannot attract him. What will chains do? And therefore Raghunath Das Goswami eventually just ran away. Raghunath Bhatta, he wanted to just join and run away and be with Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu told him, be patient, take care of your parents, and once your duties are fulfilled, then you leave. So everyone had their own route to renunciation, but they all renounced, they all let go. Now you may be sitting here saying, but I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a babaji, I'm not a renuncier, I'm not a tyagi, I have so many duties in the world. Is renunciation relevant for me? Well, Kaviraj Goswami says, Mahaprabhur Bhakta Ganer Vairāgya Pradhan. That renunciation is the basic principle which sustains the life of all of Mahaprabhu's devotees. And therefore everyone has to learn how to imbibe renunciation in a way that's relevant to their life situation. And so that's what we'll talk about a little bit today. The Bhagavatam was initially spoken by Krishna to Brahma, and when Krishna spoke it to Brahma, he basically summarized the Bhagavatam in 4 verses. That was it. 4 verses was enough. And he basically in these 4 verses was able to understand everything. And this is the final of the 4 verses of the Chatu Shloki, where Krishna says to Brahma, Etavadeva jigyasam tattva jigyasunatmanaha anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyad sarvatra sarvada. It's very interesting. Krishna says to Brahma, a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So this is very interesting. What does it mean that one has to search for Krishna indirectly? Here the thrust of the statement is very clear, that if one wants to find spiritual perfection, if one wants to find Krishna, it has to be the main thing on your mind. It has to be on the top of your agenda in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly in your activities. It has to be on the top of your agenda. But what does it mean to search for Krishna indirectly? And when you look at the commentaries of the Acharyas, they describe this actually different, they describe it in different ways. But this is one way you can see what it means to look for Krishna indirectly. If looking for Krishna directly means to always remember Krishna, then what does looking for Krishna indirectly mean? Never forget him. If looking for Krishna directly means to engender spiritual attachment, then what does looking for Krishna indirectly mean? To embody material detachment. If looking directly for Krishna means to embrace niyam, things you should do, then what does indirectly looking for Krishna mean? To embrace the yama, or the things to avoid. And if looking for Krishna directly means anukulyasya sankalpa, to accept everything that's favorable for devotional service, what does looking for Krishna indirectly mean? Pratikulyasya varjanam, reject everything unfavorable. It's very interesting. What we often do in spiritual life is we very concertedly look at this column. But we may not realize that we also have to look for Krishna indirectly by ensuring these things are also there. And therefore Vairāgya is incredibly, incredibly important. Although the ultimate Vairāgya comes from Bhakti, because Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Teshu Vairāgyam. It comes from Bhakti. But in the process, we have to also disconnect. So Vairāgya, we can say, means disconnect to connect. Disconnecting from the things of this world that have no meaning, no relation to Krishna. Letting go of things. What we called the other day destructive enlightenment. One French philosopher, maybe you know the name, this is Belgium, there's some French people here. He says, enlightenment is not when there's nothing more to add, but it's when there's nothing left to take away. So Vairāgya means to let go of everything which is artificial, superficial, useless, unhelpful in the journey and service to Krishna. And so, rasovarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. When you give up the lower things, you can grasp the higher things. Here's a thought experiment for you. Krishna, Balaram in the spiritual world, enchanting, beautiful, attracts our heart. And now I want to offer all of you two options. Okay, ready? Vishamba, two options. Tell me which one you want. Option number one, you can fulfill all your aspirations in life, do whatever you want to do, whatever you want to achieve, we'll do that for you, we'll arrange everything, and at the end of life you can go back to Godhead, back to the spiritual world. Option number one. Do you need to hear option two? Okay, you can do anything you want to achieve, whatever your dreams are, whatever your desires are, however you want to sort out this life, we'll arrange everything and then you can go back to the spiritual world. This is there on the plate for you. Option number two, go back to Godhead now, right now, this moment. The plane's here. Are you ready? Option one or two? Two. Are you sure? Are you really sure? Ask yourself this question. Right? Ask, actually. Remember, in one you're going back to the spiritual world as well. Don't worry, you're going to go back in number one. Are you ready to go now?
Not really.
Not really?
No,
Why not?
maybe because
You can go now, you get out.
it's clean enough, or maybe I don't.
No, we'll make it all up. You'll be clean enough. We'll purify you. We'll prepare you. But are you ready?
I jump.
Are you ready?
It comes in the heart. Not sure. But then
Not
I'm
sure.
scared.
Yeah, scared, not sure. Maybe some things left to do. Krishna, I got some service still to do for you here, really?
So maybe stupid to not not jump.
It's interesting, but it's interesting. You see, this is an interesting thought experiment because naturally our tendency is that we think like one is a more humane way of doing it. Like, let's just do this in a structured way, let's do this in a mode of goodness way, like let's not be passionate about it. But in all of that, we want to do it in the mode of goodness. It may indicate that you still have some agendas in this world. You're still holding on to it. How many people would be ready now if the call came? Think about that for a second. And let me ask you the question. If there are things that we have to let go of, what are those things that we have to let go of? Can you tell me? What is it that is holding us back? What are we attached to that we have to let go of?
Family and friends.
Family and friends. Mother and father. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? When Krishna drew up the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, like Arjuna said, Senayor ubayor madhye ratham stapayame chuta. Krishna, take my chariot to the middle. Then Krishna draws up the chariot and he stops. And you know where he stops? Bhishma Drona Pramukata. He stops right in front of Bhishma Dev and Drona. And the acharyas say Bhishma Dev represents family attachment. So it's like right there in front of you. This is now the person that you have to kill. That's heavy. Yeah. We have to give up relationships. Attachment in relationships. What else do you have to give up?
Identity, like what we created that we are.
Yeah. All the identities we have to give up. Even all the spiritual identities in the Hare Krishna movement, you have to give up as well. The ashram leader, the Sankirtan leader, the temple president, the GBC, and not just that, a good cook, known for this devotional service that you did, famous in the movement for this, appreciated for this, to not identify with that, to not be attached to that. Starting to feel a little painful. What else do we have to give up?
Faith that you can become happy.
Faith, the hopes of happiness in the material world, you have to give that up. What else do you have to give up? Speculation. Jnane prayasa mudapasya namanta eva. When Ramananda Rai recited this verse, Mahaprabhu says, yes, this is very good. All the other answers he rejected, he liked this one. He said, throw away all speculation, throw away all searching for, just hear and chant and give your heart and mind to the process of glorifying Krishna. Yeah, good, thank you. What else do you have to throw away, let go of? Yes? Control, the desire to control is so hard, isn't it? Have you ever been in a plane when you go through turbulence?
Yeah.
It's interesting when, you know, like there's that moment where like you're in the plane and then there's turbulence and then sometimes the plane just dips. And what does everyone do when the plane dips? Like the first thing you do is you go like this. But if you think about it, that's completely irrational. Because if the plane's going down, it ain't going to matter if you hold onto the seat, because the seat, the plane, the whole thing is going down. But we have this kind of sense, like, no, I've got to control it, you know, like I've got a safety. It's very interesting. We have this... so we get attached. It's very interesting. Even in Hare Krishna temples, you see like people tend to always sit in the same place for class. Have you noticed? I'm not looking at anyone in particular here, but even in Mangalarati, it's like everyone has their spot, you know. Like even me, I'm the same, you know. Even in the sleeping room in the ashram, I have my spot. Now I have a room actually, but previously I had a spot. And I used to sleep right by the bookshelf, like with my head next to the book. Because I had this theory that if I would just sleep there, then throughout the night, all the knowledge would magically go into my head. So I reserved that spot for many years. We have to let go of all these things, places, people, habits, situations, attitudes. That's a big one. Character traits, So many things. Can you see? Holding us back. It's not that we can't function in this world. It's not that we can't have relationships. It's not. But there has to be a certain amount of detachment from that. Otherwise, it can hold us back. So we're not going to have time today, but this is an experiment you can do in your spare time. That think about all of the things in life that you have let go, you need to let go, you would like to let go, and you can make them into a matrix, yeah? Like there were some things when you came to the Hare Krishna movement that you just effortlessly let go of. Like they told you, if you want to be a devotee, you have to let go of this. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Can anyone think of something like that that was just effortless? Smoking? That was easy, right? Yeah, it was easy. Meat. Yeah, like someone told me like, you can't eat mushrooms. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like I don't like mushrooms anyway, it's like no problem. So there were some things in the Hare Krishna movement that they tell us to let go of that were just effortless. Easy. Okay, so you can list all of those things down just to reward yourself that you did let go of something. Then there were things in the Hare Krishna movement that you had to consciously let go of, that required a little bit of effort. What were those things? Anyone want to tell us their experience? Sleep. I'm glad you've let it go now, Shamananda, and you've admitted that in front of everyone. Yeah, like waking up and certain time schedules that devotees live according to. Yeah, what else did you have to consciously let go of? Friends? Some friends, some relationships. You had to tell yourself, no, this is not helpful, this is not good for me, it's difficult because we've had a long-term connection, but I have to create some distance here because it's not good. Yes. Vishwamba? Appearance, yeah, you had to, yeah. Vedananda Maharaj said often in the 60s when someone would join and they had to give them a haircut, they needed to bring like a pickup truck to take all their hair away, because there's so much hair. Yeah, that was like, Prabhupada said actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to save you and shave you. Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. Yeah, so some things we had to consciously let go of, but we managed it. We managed to pluck up the determination to do it. But now these two are the interesting ones. Are there certain things in your life that you know you need to let go of, but somehow by circumstance you can't let go of? It's not that you don't want to let go of it, you do want to let go of it. But by you know it's not good, you know it's not favorable, you know it's not helping you, but by some situation in life, you can't just give it up. Can you think of something like that? It doesn't have to be you, but can you give an example of someone, a theoretical example?
I'm giving this example. For example, I have pets. I have to give pets, but I cannot because who will take care of them?
Pets, yeah. Yeah, so you may have had pets and now you think like, yeah, they may not be the best, for your spiritual journey, but you can't just, they have a bumper sticker in London, like a dog is not just for Christmas, a dog is for life. So there's a certain commitment there. Yeah. Family, yeah. Like say for example, you're married to someone and then you become Krishna conscious and they don't. Okay, now that's a bit of a complex situation. And what are you going to do? Can you just walk away? It's complex. Or family, they've been with you your whole life and now you've become a Hare Krishna and they don't. And it's like, but you have to interact with that. So this is where it starts getting complex because there are certain things, but you can't let go of them. It's not practically possible at this point in time. So maybe you can list those things down just to be aware of it. And then the fourth one is the things we know are not good, we know are unfavorable, we know we should let go of, but we just don't want to. What are those things? Yeah. Shamananda. You and Shamananda was telling me you should dig a little more with everyone, so I'm just following your instruction. You can decide that for yourself. What is it that you don't want to let go of? Okay? You can do this exercise, it's very interesting. And now you can, once you've done this, you can ask yourself the question, should things in box 3 actually be in box 4? Right? So all the things you say here that you can't let go of because of the situation, just take another look at it. And some of them may well stay in that box, but maybe after analyzing many of the things in this box, you may realize, actually, maybe we should just move them over to this box. Right?
Yes, yes.
It's we got to understand our psychology. Why are we stuck here in this world? Because we're putting a bunch of things in this box saying, no, I can't give it up, it's not practical, it's not ethical, it's not Krishna conscious. When actually, the only problem is our own attachment to it. Some consideration, I'm just giving you. I'm not saying it's true. Here's another one. What things generally trouble you the most? The things in box 3 or the things in box 4? What things do you generally complain about the most that's holding you back in Krishna consciousness? These things or these things? Generally here, isn't it? So like, I wish I could, but I've got this difficult situation that I can't deal with. If only this thing worked out for me, if only Krishna arranged to sort this thing out and help me let go of this, then I'd be Krishna conscious. When all the while there's a bunch of things here that if you really wanted to let go of, you could let go of, and you could already start making advancement. But we play victim mentality and we say, look, everyone else's life is good. They don't have anything here, complexities that they can't let go of. But look at my long list. But what about all these things here? So generally what we tend to do is we tend to focus more on box 3 than box 4. And we play victim mentality and say, my life is too difficult, I can't give up things because it's not, and that's holding me back. Maybe in the future when Krishna arranges things better, then I'll be a better devotee. But right now, until Krishna arranges it, I can't do much. It is what it is. But there's a whole bunch of things, my dear friend, in box 4 that you can deal with. And which do you think is more dangerous, box 3 or 4?
3. No.
What do you think is more dangerous for your spiritual journey?
That is 4.
4, because these things you can today. These things you may not be able to give up today, and maybe there's a reason you can't give them up today. Maybe Krishna's putting you through a situation where you do have to be with someone who's not necessarily very Krishna conscious. And maybe that's meant to teach you something, but these things you can deal with. These things Krishna is giving you an opportunity to let go of, but you're not letting go of them. I know this is a bit psychological, but sometimes we got to also explore our psychology. So these are questions you can ask. And then there are reflections on box 3. Remember box 3, what that was, right? The things that you can't let go of because of situation. Ask yourself, is there a way to favorably engage this? So in that situation where you have pets, right? So you can't just let go of the pets. So then now ask yourself the question, is there a way I can favorably engage this situation to try and become more? Well, in Shastra, we have many examples. For example, Shivananda Sen took care of the dog, right? Well, actually, he neglected the dog, right? Is it? No, they carried him, right, with the party, and then Mahaprabhu was feeding the dog Mahaprasad, and then the dog went back to Godhead. Yeah. So ask yourself, is there a way to make this Krishna conscious? Ask yourself, even in that unfavorable situation, is there something favorable that you're learning? Say, for example, you're with someone who's not very Krishna conscious, and you think, like, this is bringing my consciousness down. But there may be other qualities that you're learning in that interaction which may help you in your Krishna consciousness. You see, like sometimes when you're with someone who's unfavorable and you have to be in that situation, you can learn a very high level of tolerance. And that tolerance, later on, you come into the devotee community and it's like nothing affects you because you've just developed such a high level of tolerance. And then you begin to realize, oh, maybe, just maybe, Krishna put me in that situation so I can learn this quality. So in all the unfavorable situations of life that we can't change, there may be something very favorable that Krishna is giving which may help us on the spiritual journey. And here's another one. Have you ever noticed how sometimes in life the things in box number 3, the unfavorable things that are blocking you in your spiritual life, later on become favorable? Have you noticed that? Like, for example, we've had parents who have gone to amazing lengths to stop their children from, becoming full-time devotees. Like, they've done really heavy stuff. And that was seemingly such an unfavorable situation. But later on, those parents became the biggest supporters through that whole situation. And then later on, they just transformed. So sometimes what happens is Krishna, when there's an unfavorable situation in your life that you think, I just need to let go of this, but you can't, later on Krishna will show you how that situation can transform and become very, very favorable. And on reflections on box 4, the things that you don't want to give up, ask yourself, I need to make a plan to give these things up. And if you make that plan, if you make that concerted effort, and then later on you start letting go of things, then it can work. So this is a famous quote from Einstein. I must be willing to give up what I am in order to become what I will be, or what I can be, or what I should be, or what Krishna really wants me to be. And this is why Vairāgya is such an important thing. It's so important for devotees, because oftentimes we're doing all the positive things in Krishna consciousness. We're doing all the things, the favorable things to bhakti, but we may not be paying so much attention to the things that are holding us back. And therefore, it can be like the story that Bhaktisiddhanta gave of the wedding party that went into the boat in the shining moonlight, and the bride and the groom were on the boat, and then the boatman started rowing and rowing and rowing, and all through the night they were rowing, and as the sun rose in the morning, they looked around and they said, my God, we're still by the shore. They said, how can we be by the shore? We've been rowing all night. But no one pulled the anchor up. Bhogeshvarya prashaktanam taya parita chetasham vyavasayatmika buddhi samado nuvidiyate. Krishna says, for one who is attached to enjoyment, opulence, and the comforts of this world, a resolute determination for devotional service does not take place. We have to let go. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita, first 6 chapters, Karma Yoga, how to live. Second 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga, how to love. Third 6 chapters, Jnana Yoga, how to let go. If next time someone asks you on the street, what's this book all about? You tell them, this book teaches you how to live, how to love, and how to let go. And if you learn these 3 things, how to live, love, and let go, you won't walk through this world, you'll float through this world. So, let us deeply think about renunciation and what it means in my life. What does detachment mean? And in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling the Goswamis, establish tattva, and we must deeply think, how much is my life rooted in philosophical truth? How much is my vision through the Shastra? That is very, very important key to unlocking rasa. But then Mahaprabhu told the Goswamis, show the ideal example. And we must also in our lives look and reflect, what is my character? A devotee is not just what they do, it's who they are. Thirdly, Mahaprabhu told the Goswamis, establish places where people can come and render selfless service. And then we have to ask ourselves, how much selfless service am I rendering? How much am I coming out of the me world and reaching out to offer selfless acts for Krishna's pleasure and the benefit of all living entities? And then Mahaprabhu told the Goswamis, Tirtha, establish sacred places where people can come and begin to connect to the ultimate reality and understand that very intimate type of devotion which is going on in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So we have to ask ourselves, am I visiting the Tirtha? Am I developing a love for the Tirtha? How much am I able to make my immediate environment like a Tirtha? And are there people in my life who are like walking places of pilgrimage who I am hanging on to because in their presence I feel connected to that eternal reality? That's another key. And this evening we talked about Vairāgya. If you want to unlock rasa, if you want to experience what real taste is, you have to let go. You have to let go of, we have to all let go, me as well, of these things holding us back. And if we do all of those things, then we'll achieve rasa. We'll taste that rasa that's available. And tad rasa mrita triptasya na anyatra syadrati kvachit. When you taste that rasa, your search ends. There's nothing more to look for in this world. No more things to do, no more things to achieve, no more vacuum in the heart, no more emptiness, but fulfillment, real satisfaction, satiation of the consciousness. And that is the offer that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives to the world, and the Goswamis, by their mercy, teach us how to do these things. And therefore in these days we've just reflected on some of these principles. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay, I've left deliberately more time just to see if there may be any questions on today's or any of the sessions that we've been discussing. Yes.
I wanted to ask about renunciation in the sense of...
I wanted to ask about renunciation in the sense we went through these 4 boxes, and I was thinking how at the beginning this renunciation is quite like you have to renounce of some visible gross stuff or some like things that are evident. But as we go into spiritual life, then the renunciation is more subtle, right? And then sometimes we don't even know what we have to renunciate, you know, because it's so like, maybe it's like, for instance, these identities. We're not even aware that we are maybe attached to this so much, like, I don't know, being a temple commander. We think we are a servant, but actually maybe we are really attached to the role and so on. So, and that's what I was thinking, like, when you said, like, whether you would choose number 1 or number 2. I would choose number 1 because I still have this, like, need that I think that I have to serve in this world, but actually it's, when you think about it, it's nonsense, because in the spiritual world it's the real service. So maybe like, how can we, I mean, it's not even our effort, you know, to detach ourselves sometimes from these subtle things. It's like the whole purification process. So, I don't know, can you say something about like maybe your experience or,
Yeah, you make a very nice point. I mean, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his devotees are cleansing the Gundicha temple, then that point is being made by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his purports. And he says in the beginning they take all the, you know, the main dust and everything out. And then later on they're gathering finer and finer things that you see behind the cracks and, you know, in the corners and so on and so forth. So cleansing is like that. In the beginning it's just like cut out all of the, you know, the nonsense, you know, and the gross things, and that to some extent is easier. But then later on, it's mentalities, it's attitudes, it's identities, it's much more subtle things that the desire to control, all of these things. In terms of becoming aware of what we have to give up, therefore we have a lot of help. The first thing is we have devotees. And the other day I was mentioning the point of feedback. And I think this is, actually if you look at the 6 loving exchanges, then actually on the first 2, dadati, pratigranati, giving gifts, receiving gifts, we're pretty good, like we do that. Bhunkte bhojayate cheva, giving prasad, receiving prasad, we're really good on that one. But on the last 2, guyam akyati prachyati, to have real, open, honest relationships, not just where you can express your mind, but when someone can honestly express their mind to you. Like think about how many devotees you know that you could honestly express your mind to if you wanted to give them some feedback to help them genuinely. Like how many relationships do we have like that of trust, love and trust? So I think we miss out there in our movement because we don't have that. We don't have enough devotees who observe us, I realized this when I was living in the ashram that, I thought, after some time I thought, my God, these people are living with me morning to evening. Like they observe me every single day. Like they hold incredibly valuable information for me. Because they're seeing me every single day. These guys can tell me so many things about myself. But I realized in 6 years, I came to the conclusion after 6 years in the ashram, I had never gone to one of them and asked them, what do you think I could do to improve? That's amazing. Because here are all the people who have the information for you. But we don't have the relationship to ask. And then it becomes very, very difficult. Then we get stuck in our own illusion. So spiritual people are there, devotees. Spiritual prayer is there. Krishna is in your heart. And if you come in front of Krishna and say, Krishna, reveal to me what I need to give up, how I need to improve. Why? Krishna. Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna will reveal to you in some way or the other. And then the books are also amazing because the books are living, because Srila Prabhupada is speaking to us. And therefore, if you're reading the Bhagavatam, or if you come into a class, one devotee told me to do this, and I tried to do it. He said, when you come into a class, before the speaker starts speaking, you should just take 2 minutes, close your eyes and pray to Krishna that let my eyes, my ears, my heart be open to everything you're going to try and tell me in this class. Because this is Krishna speaking to me. And when we do that kind of prayerful reading, recently I've been reading about Christian monks, and this is a big thing in Christian monasticism, prayerful reading, lectio divina and all these kind of things. And it's really this deep meditative kind of reading where when you're coming in front of Krishna in the form of the Shastra, you really try to open your heart and hear what Krishna is telling you. It's here it is, everything you need to hear. So, we can learn, we can understand, get the information, but we have to want it. A lot of the time we don't want it. We don't want to know because we don't want to let go. So, some thoughts. Yes.
I was just reflecting on this, the can't let go and the shouldn't let go, because I was thinking...
I think the mic's not on, yeah. Don't let go of the mic.
Yes, things you shouldn't let go. It's very apt. I was thinking of Arjun, and Arjun wanted to renounce. And Krishna was actually saying, no, you shouldn't renounce. You want to renounce this thing because it's easy.
Yeah.
And not easy, but it fits more with what you think you want to do right now. And he said, actually, you have to act, but with renunciation. So I was wondering where...
Oh, that's a really good point, actually, yeah. That's a really good point. I think in the next presentation I should add a 5th box to this, which is stuff you want to let go of that you shouldn't. That's a really good point, because Krishna talks about renunciation also in the mode of passion, renunciation in the mode of goodness, when we give up things because they're difficult, when we give up things because they're troublesome, when actually you're meant to be going through that situation and you're meant to learn something and grow through that. So I think that's a really, really good point, actually. Thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, I think that is an important factor to add to this, that sometimes in embracing Vairāgya, we can actually, like anything, misuse it and let go of things that actually we're not meant to let go of. Yeah, good point. Thank you so much. That's a good point, yeah.
Do you have an example?
Well, in that case, Arjun wanted to give up his Kshatriya dharma. He wanted to renounce, he wanted to become a yogi, he wanted to take sannyas, basically, you can say. And Krishna told him, no, that dharma is important for you, that work for you to do in the world, to serve people in that way, to engage your tendencies and to become purified and offer the results of your activities in service. That's more important than letting it go. So, sometimes, for example, someone may have a very responsible position in ISKCON. And there's always, crisis moments where you may want to give it up, and sometimes you're meant to give it up, and sometimes you're not meant to give it up. And we've all gone through those situations, and sometimes we decide, yeah, it's the time to give it up, and it can be progressive, and sometimes we realize, no, it's difficult, but I've got to work through it. So again, when to give up, when not to give up, these are all, therefore you need the help of devotees, you need the help of Shastra, you need to really tune in to understand the heart and Krishna's messages. Yeah. Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to ask a follow-up, you can.
No,
No.
I think
Okay.
it's good. Really new.
Think about it, yeah, sure.
I also like the word anartha. It's anartha, things that, unwanted things. But I thought my own personal definition is anartha, unwanted things I still want.
Yeah.
Things I definitely don't want to. And I was thinking, again, my little critical nature.
Yes.
When you do your 5 points, why do you put Vairāgya at the end? You see, that should be a little more preliminary. Later on, it should be more something more exalted than Vairāgya.
Yeah.
But no, the point you hit on, and also I think Bhakti Thakur gives that, we did it last Sunday, he mentioned the weaknesses of heart, and there's 4 categories of material desire. One category is illusions about God, ourself, things favourable and things not favourable. We're actually in an illusion what's not favourable. And I always go back to Buddha Bhaku's graphic example of this. He said there's so much mercy we're getting. We're getting so much mercy, but we're not digesting it. It's going in,
but we
all know it doesn't mean it's coming out. And an undigested, unbeneficial form. So we're not sure, but we're just because we're not embracing it, because we're holding on. The famous thing about you can't hold on unless you let go. You can't take it. So yeah, this letting go of things that we're resistant to do it because that we still identify and we still take too much value and shelter for them. So
no, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, just
I was wondering if you could say something about Prabhupada's you're not this body, you're a spirit soul, and just that order of it that always perturbed me, at first, you're not this body. It's like the indirectly first saying that, and that emphasis on it, that, I don't know, it doesn't seem like.
So are you saying that we should focus on the Vairāgya first, what you're not, and then focus on the positive? Is that what you're saying?
Well, from that statement, that's what I get, and it's just a very popular statement, you're not this body, you're a spirit soul. And I found it to be like not in the times with preaching, kind of, it's like, these days it's more popular to say the good news first kind of thing, and then
Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. Just say one final thing because Arti is about to start. I think it's an iterative process, so like we're grasping onto the favorable, directly connecting with Krishna, and then paying attention to the things we have to give up and being attentive to that, and then coming back and grasping more. It's almost as you let go of more, you're able to grasp more of the spiritual process. And as you grasp more of the spiritual process, you become more empowered to let go of more. And as you let go of more, it's like, now I can do so much more in spiritual life. And the fire of devotion that's born from that means you can give up now those even harder things that you couldn't. And I think we're constantly moving like that. And so with every given year, directly and indirectly, we're growing in both ways. Just something on that.